Ryan, so what are the tools generating the most data on fans that you look at and you're using?
I'm looking at a lot of different data actually, and really trying to still narrow down what's most important because there are new opportunities and new platforms and new places springing up all the time that are offering data and figuring out ways to kind of condense it. And I think one of the reasons why I'm on this chat is because of the industry newsletter that I've done for the last 10 plus years. And that really began at first as an email that I was sending to people in the bands that I was managing at the time that was really trying to provide context because everyone then was specifically focused on record sales. And there was an increasing focus on first week sales. You know, what's our album going to do the first week it comes out? And I started sending that around, gathering up record sales from comparable bands that were traveling in the same scenes as the bands I was working with as a means of saying, okay, you know, in our little circle of the music business, it's not doing you any good comparing yourselves to massive pop artists or hip hop artists or legacy rock bands. Here's more of an apples to apples. You know, these are your peers and contemporaries and bands you're on tour with. This should give you and me a better indication of kind of where things stand for you. And that developed over time from maybe 15, 20 people that I was sending that email to every week to, you know, more and more people were saying, hey, I heard there's some kind of email you send out. Can I get on that? And then as that grew, I started looking at different data as what they call pure sales has become less and less relevant. You know, I started adding different things that I was throwing in, whether it was social media and so on, and even as that was kind of taking off. And it was actually a conversation that was led by Mike Mowery somewhere around 2012 or something. We were at a show in LA, and Mike and I and 10 or 11 colleagues who were booking agents and record label staffers and tour managers and just various people from our corner of the industry were sitting around a table, and something about my email newsletter came up, and I made kind of a dismissive comment about like, you know, I spend a couple hours on that every week, and you know, feels like pissing in the wind. Like you know, nobody's paying me for it. And everyone around the table kind of erupted with like, no, don't stop doing it. Like, we love it. We depend on it for this and this. And people started telling me about how they had used it and how they keep it on file and how they'll, you know, one of the booking agents that was at the table was saying that when she was trying to figure out which band should be where on a tour in terms of like who's the main support and who's the opener or whatever, she would type my name into her computer to pull up my email and look at first week sales and social media numbers and all that. So it was around that time that I really started to recognize that the value in not only data, but in the specific data that's tailored to a particular group of industry professionals that care about, you know, X number of bands that fall into whatever criteria. Because that's something that as time has gone on, and obviously I'm talking a little bit ancient history, but it's only proven to be increasingly true how important it is to be able to tailor the data, right? Because you know, like Randy was saying, there's a lot of information out there that we don't necessarily need. Like when people talk about YouTube views, for example, for me, I'm interested to see how many people have watched this video and what time, you know, what amount of time did it take to get to that many views, and where are the, like, I don't know, 5 or 10 countries or cities that these views are coming from. I don't need necessarily how many likes, how many dislikes, how many subscribers does the channel have versus how many, you know. It's great to me that all that data is available, but I know that the hard and fast stuff that I want to look at to get a sense of where things stand is really more simple than that. The problem that I run into is working in a very genre specific area. a lot of, whether it's the Rolling Stone Artist 500, which they started recently, or the YouTube music charts that they provide, or services like Chartmetric, a lot of great platforms that are out there. They're doing everything, so Spotify, for example, every week you can go look at a Spotify chart and see the biggest songs and the biggest artists. But because rock and metal music and punk music, which I think most of us work in, doesn't compete with the bigger stuff, it doesn't even make those charts. So something I've been really focused on is fine tuning and really specializing and focusing on data that's relevant in our corner of the industry. And I feel like whoever can solve that problem for all the different diversified genres out there is going to be of big help to all of us.
Well, Bill, can you build on that idea that there is good information to be had from generalized data, but can you actually make decisions on it, and does that provide context? And then filtering it down to it actually being something that is useful. You had a great anecdote of very specific data that is very helpful, but is there anything more on a broader scale that you're looking at regularly that does help inform decisions?
Yeah, especially when you're trying to develop an artist, right? I mean, I've had many situations where, we start working with a very young artist, and I go, okay, let's see where we're at. And I go, okay, we got a lot of work to do. And then over the course of a couple of years, you have more benchmarks now than you ever had before, because then you can turn around in 6 months and say, well, 6 months ago we were here and now we're here. There's this much progress in these certain areas by this much percentage up or down. We didn't have that back, and what Downey was saying about how when he was, I remember when he was, thinking about kicking that newsletter away, and everyone was like, no, don't do it. And everyone said that because, believe it or not, I mean, and not taking away from what he was doing, it's actually good that he did it, because for a lot of us, that's all we had. And to think about the tools that were just not at our fingertips then that are now, that just kind of speaks to the music industry writ large that has always knee-jerked against technology. And I feel like now we're at a point where we're finally starting to embrace it more than ever, which is something everyone on this call has probably been doing for a long time, but our whole world hasn't. But as far as parsing out different pieces of data to meet certain goals, over the course of a campaign or even an artist's career, your goals change every day or every week. And what I like about Chartmetric and Spotify for Artists and YouTube Music Charts is the fact that they do cast a very wide net amongst data points. I like that, because what I need today might not be what I need tomorrow. But just knowing that it's there in case I do is good to know.
Are you looking at that data inside those tools, or do you extract the data from it?
Me personally, I use a large tech stack, if you will, of all this stuff. Chartmetrics and is probably one of the biggest ones. Music Connect, I know we all look at because that's all we have as far as parsing out sales. But yeah, I look at all of them, and sometimes it's for my own internal mental notes. Sometimes it's for external reporting, or trying to make sense of an event or a portion of a campaign. But I like having all that data spread out. It's almost like a giant cupboard in a way, where you can go in and pick out the ingredients you want to try to make something.
Vivian, are there any particular tools that you recommend for the industry for looking at this data that they're getting from YouTube, Spotify, and everybody, and social networks and everything else?
Yeah. Bill, you're still using Music Connect? Because the Spotify, I think, is no longer reporting, right?
I remember hearing about that.
Like a huge,
yeah.
why am I paying for this now?
Exactly. Yeah. But again, that's to my point, to that the tech, the tools that we all have access to and use sometimes go outdated, and sometimes people don't even realize it, and you have to retool what they're doing.
All of a sudden, your total albums for a week just drops significantly. Right. It just doesn't make any. Right. Okay. So in my USC class, we teach Chartmetric. Absolutely. Everyone that is in one of my classes gets an account, we actually had the Chartmetric CEO come in and talk to us, and that was really, really cool. For social, CrowdTangle is pretty neat. I don't know if anyone's checked that platform out, but that's a pretty cool one. And then Music Connect, or used to be, I mean, I guess it's still useful for radio, but like for anything else, I don't really see a ton of value in that, unfortunately, anymore. And yeah, Spotify for artists, when I can get my hands on it, that's always great. I can send you a list, Paul, if I come up with anything else later, so you can share with the group.
It's all good. I mean, it seems like